So thank you very much for doing this. So we've got two of the most familiar voices in the sport to uh, unpack and repackage 2020.
Whew.
Um, and we're gonna. So Bill mentioned off mic or on mic, but off record, that there's a shit ton of stuff to cover. And when he saw the list, he was like, "So this is going to be like an 8-hour podcast." Um, I'll,
I just know
I'll
how me and Chase are. We could make, what color is the sky? We can make that a 3-hour podcast. So you gotta be careful with who you have here.
So as politely as possible, I'll move things along if I feel like okay, we're on topic one and we're already 3 hours in.
Yeah, let's
Um,
gotta get the hooks in on Bill.
yeah. So we'll
It's all me, totally.
we'll
You
start.
keep all your soapboxes back, though. Keep all your soapboxes back, because Chase might hop up on 3 of them.
Bring no
So.
soapboxes.
We'll start off with so like back. I'm including like the Open in the year because I mean it was the longest year ever for the athletes, so we might as well get involved in the action.
Yeah.
So we had the Open in October of last year, and then after the Open, then we had like Filthy 150 here in Ireland, Dubai, Pandaland, Brazil, Argentina, Strength and Depth, Mayhem Classic, Norwegian CrossFit Championships, and then after that, I guess everything started really hitting the shit really hit the fan after that. But of those, the Open, Filthy, Dubai, China, Brazil, Argentina, London, Mayhem, and Norway. What I was curious, we'll start with you, Bill. What were your standout moments of those events?
Um, Honestly, I think that the way that the Open went down, because we had two that year, and it was really, really confusing, I think, for a lot of athletes, because it's like, how are you supposed to organize your training? How are you supposed to figure out when to peak and how to peak? Before, it used to be that you didn't have to peak for the Open. We just knew that the Open was an opportunity, but then now all of a sudden it was like, with all the different sanctions that were coming out, it was like, okay, how is this going to play in? And we just did an Open before that. What was it? 5 months before that, or 6 months before that. So um, I know for me, that second Open was really difficult. And I don't mean as an athlete. I just mean as an affiliate owner, as a coach. It was a very odd time, because it was really hard to rally people around that, since they just did it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really, really interesting. But trying to keep that positive outlook with that. But then as we got into the sanction events, it was really, I mean, talking about Justin Medeiros, the fact that he made it all, they did so well in the games and stuff like that. Seeing him kind of come, I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but seeing him do so well in his sanctional. And I've seen him kind of grow a little bit, just, locally out here in California. So I've been able to kind of watch what he's been able to do, but see the way he was able to have some success there. And I think it kind of really gave everyone the idea of like, okay, with 900 sanctional events that are on the calendar now, we're going to get all kinds of different people. And I think that was kind of the initial start of that. I say the last one that I went to was the Wadapalooza. And Wadapalooza, even though that was at the very beginning of the COVID experience with everything, it was it was packed as always. The races were great. So it was really fun to see people fighting for those spots. And I think that was, I mean, the first year was weird trying to figure out what the sanctions were. And then now the athletes are like, okay, I understand it. Now I understand the idea. Now I can go to these different places, of which there were so many of them, and really get after it. So it was really, I think for me, the standout was, I'm not gonna say there was one individual standout, but it was really interesting to watch how the athletes were morphing what they were having to do, the training that they were having to do, and then the importance of the events that they decided were going to be their their chance to try to take their shot at the games.
Hmm.
I thought that was really interesting because it was completely different than any other way that they've ever had to do it, and really were able to make a move rather than trying to walk on ice, and slipping all over the place.
Yeah. What about you, Chase?
I think for what along the lines of Bill is like a negative for me for the first time was the Open, like having the Open come back so soon off the tail end of all the crap that happened that year and previously to that. So that was tough. It was the first time I didn't enjoy competing in CrossFit, even
You're
training.
nearly like having to psych yourself up for it rather than just be like, oh, it's here, brilliant.
And before it's like it was exciting. It's like we've been training for this all year, and it was. I mean, Bill said it was hard to rally. It was hard to rally myself. And when it's hard to rally yourself, it's really hard to put on like a pretend face to get your members in. But I still tried because I still believed in CrossFit. I still believe that the CrossFit Games and the sport of CrossFit was something fun, and we wanted to save and foster. I didn't want to see it go down by the wayside. So that was tough. That was a big negative for me, is having that feeling for the first time ever since doing CrossFit. The positive was, up until things shut down, was all the different sanctioned events in the new locations. Did I think there should be 28? Absolutely not. I thought that was way too much. But it was really neat to see, Norway's idea and where it was, and you in the South America, even the Filthy 150. I had no idea about the Filthy 150 until it happened. What was it, last November?
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. Like, that looked like a very amazing, fun event. Yet it had been going on for what, 5-6 years up to that point. So that was really neat to see a lot of local flares, local favorites. And I believe that was the draw to sanctioned events, that people like to see these countries and these affiliates and these new. Wow, that's me.
Every time, dude. That's like 3 in a row for you.
I apologize.
Dang.
I'm so sorry.
Just log them in. It's fine. We'll take another person.
Cut that out, right? It was neat to see the local flavors of sanctioned events, seeing their own imprint on the competition. So that was really cool. Even though I wasn't a big fan of it being spread out all over the place and too many competitions, that became a fun thing for me to see it unfold. Even though I didn't get to do that many. Bill, you went to way more than I did. Well, it's way more. But it was really cool to see that. So those are the two positive, one positive and one negative from last year.
Yeah, I was saying, talking to Bill just before you logged on about, Atlas Games was the one where I think there was a lot of ones where they were like pushed back and maybe postponed. Like, I remember doing an interview in February with PD Savage. He's the national champ here. Like, what a name for an athlete. But we joked about how, once he doesn't go to China, he's fine. Like, I remember sitting down with him, and he had actually qualified for Miami, and I was like, "Why did you not go?" And he was like, "I didn't realize I qualified for it." And I was like, "Oh, do you reckon you'll do any more?" Like, I was like, once you don't go to China, you'll be fine. Like, little did we know that, like, what was coming down the track. But like, I suppose it started off with these little postponements, and we're gonna have to see how things go, and we'll push it back a little bit, and then I think that Atlas Games one was where I was like, right, the whole year is fucked, because if they waited until the very last possible moment and still had to cancel, like, couldn't go ahead, like, it was hard to watch, even just the effort that was being put in. Like, that was that Atlas one for me. I know loads of the other sanctions put in loads of work and stuff in the background because it's always ongoing. But to see everyone in the venue ready to go, and all the stuff in the background, the banners, the advertisements, everything, and then we told, no, whip it all down, we have to go. Like, it was a horrible scenario to see unfold across the year.
Well, I mean, that is the absolute worst you could have. At least if it was, we have to shut down before we get started, it makes sense. But I mean, you can't. If you were to draw up a worst case scenario, like, that's it. Everybody's here. We're all ready to go. 3, 2, 1. Hold up a second. Now you got to go home.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt terrible for those guys, because I know that a lot of these individual sanctions, I mean, geez, they talk about labor of love. I mean, like, they try really hard to make something really special and have a really good experience for the athletes, as well as knowing that they're one of the events that gets to have that Willy Wonka gold ticket to get someone to the games. So I mean, there's a lot that really goes into it, and that was, man, that was hard to see. I could only imagine. I mean, like, good on the guys that were able to stand up in front of everyone and go, "Sorry, guys, we got to go." Like, that's it. I mean, that takes some balls. Like, there's some strength there for sure. But that was super sad.
Yeah, and then I suppose I think it's that thing of like is it Batman? He's not the hero that we deserve, but he's the hero we need, and vice versa.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Rogue Invitational pops up, and I think it gives everyone like it was exactly what was needed because like you had all these gyms closing, you had events being cancelled, all the sanctionals were derailed, the season was derailed, the games was up in the air, and it was just like kick after kick, and it was obviously there's a whole clusterfuck all over the world with everything going on, but even just the sport, like Rogue pushes ahead, moves online, and I think for me anyway, I started getting really excited when I saw like Noah Olsen's parcel arrive at his house with all the gear in it and Catherine opening her like trying to put together her box for box jumps and stuff. I was like, oh shit, they're like it's definitely going ahead. Like Chase, you were there and you were part of the team for that. How did you find being on the inside of something as momentum was starting to build?
I mean, you're talking about the clusterfuck that was going on. This was also weeks after the Greg thing went down.
Mm,
So this was in the midst of all that. So you're talking about the perfect storm of everything wrong with the year. And then Rogue, when they first said they're going to pivot online, I had no idea conceptually what that would look like, especially from a viewership perspective. But once we got there, what they did was they flew the media team into Salt Lake City, and then were working out of this warehouse. And what they would do is they were in contact with every athlete who had a tech support person and a judge and a videographer, as well as the athletes. So you had like this 4-person circle within each location, and it was what, 30 athletes just about per
mm.
for both men and the women. And watching what it took to do that, not just from the technical side, but the sacrifice that the athletes had to make to accommodate a worldwide competition online, where the rules were you could have no music, you could have no fans, and if you did have people there, they couldn't cheer for you. Your coach couldn't even coach you while you're doing it. Like, the rules were so strict, but everybody did it. And we've talked about this a lot on multiple different podcasts, but it's like you had people who were competing in their normal everyday time slot, right? It's like it's 10 a.m. where I am, 8 where Bill is, and it's what, 4 in the afternoon for
Yeah,
you, right? Well, Cara Saunders was competing at 3 o'clock in the morning for 2 days, and everyone else is all over the sun, but they just did it for what it was and exactly what it was. It was so cool to be a part of something that we know everyone needed
yeah,
in the only way we could possibly do it. And it was phenomenal to see, and it wasn't surprising to see everyone take a step back from themselves to bring something more for other people. And that includes what Katie and Bill did by sending equipment out, the judges out, what the athletes had to sacrifice doing in terms of timing and space and fun, and everyone along just to give something to the community. And to me, that was the perfect thing we needed to be like, see, this CrossFit thing that we love so dearly and are trying to save. This is the magical things that can happen when people are a part of this community and want to do things for other people. So I absolutely loved it. It was really, really cool to be a part of.
yeah. I think as well, like you know, it would have been easy to say like, ah, do you know what? Fuck it. Like we'll just leave it. Like it's, probably not the best environment to be doing a CrossFit competition, or sorry, we'll call it a functional fitness competition now. But I think as well, I was speaking to like Rob Lawson and a few other people involved with Rogue and CrossFit, and they were like, I mean, if you ask someone in Rogue to start doing something, they will take it and like they won't run with it. Like they'll defy your expectations of what would be within the realms of possibility, and they'll piss all over that and do way above it. And I think it's exactly what they did. I mean, the only issue when I was watching it was Pat Fellner did a pause thruster for like 25 seconds at one point where his camera just froze. But like, I mean, considering all the logistics and everything that was going on, if that was the only blip the whole way through, like it was pretty remarkable.
Unbelievable.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, like Bill, when you're watching that, then are you watching that thinking, okay, if the games can go ahead, what's this telling me about it? Or are you taking it as this is going to tell me nothing for July, August?
No, what I was pleased about, I mean, obviously, just like what Chase said, it came at the perfect time. Like our community needed that
Hmm.
badly. Um, but like they say, necessity is mother of invention, and that was exactly what happened there, and it opened the doors for, okay, there's a lot of ways we can make this work. And I thought that that's what was really important with it, because here's a completely different way of doing a competition, and it still came out just as valid, just as real, just as specific and important, and um, to the letter, as if it was a live competition. I mean, if you kind of play it in your head of, okay, if you can't have a real competition, not that you would ever do it, but what would be the best way? Well, let's have everybody have their own camera, and you could put all those cameras on the screen, and then you could actually call that like those are the lanes. Like that would be like, this like dreamed up plan, and that's exactly what happened. So now it's like you can do anything if you come up with an idea of, let's think outside the box, let's not have any confines of what it used to look like, what can we do now. And I really think that took the lid off that box to be able to do that. So then at that point it was like, okay, I mean, for the games, like they didn't need to do the games, they didn't need to do the Rogue event, but they made it happen. And with all of the changes, it showed that the community was willing to accept those changes, one, and you could still put on an event that is going to do exactly what it needed to do, which is put the best people, put the best athletes in the world against each other, and then find out who the fittest is. And so I thought that it was, amazing. And I think that it really opened up the door to, okay, there isn't a set way. Come up with whatever you want to come up with, as long as these priorities of it's fair, it's equal across the board. There's no way of getting an advantage somehow or whatever. Then that's the very next best thing. And I'm starting to see now, because of what Rogue did, even small events are trying to go to that same type of thing. They're not being locked down to, it only has to be indoor, it only has to be this way or that way. They're coming up with all kinds of creative things, and I think that's the greatest setup with that, because now that's going to open it up for anybody in a bunch of different situations.
Chase, did you get a little Rogue invitational, invite plaque thing?
No, like one of
I
those
would have been
little,
like, in contract negotiations, I'd be like, I don't give a fuck about anything. I want one of these invitational.
like those little invitational iron or steel
Yeah.
cut. No, I did not get one
God,
of those.
you need a better agent, man. That's what's happening.
Oh, I mean, me and Bill have actually talked about that a lot. It's like, we should probably get somebody to set things up for us in that.
I'll do it.
Because to be fair, it's like we just make this up as we go. Like we.
But I get loads of that where people would be like, oh, you had such and such a person on. Like, I remember I had Matt Chan on,
Mhm.
and someone was talking to me afterwards. It was like, oh, are you going to get sent out like a Matt Chan bar? And I was like, I fucking doubt it. It's like, I don't know. And then
You're like, is that a thing? Can I do
yeah,
that?
yeah, like loads of people were like, "Oh, you had such and such a person on. I assume you're going to get loads of free whatever now." And I was like, "I don't think so. Like, I mean, they're doing it as a favor to me. Like, I am literally nobody as far as they're concerned." So then, like, I'm still waiting for the day that someone says, "Oh, do you know what? Here's a bunch of free shit because you asked me for a favor." Like, I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
was like,
that's how it works.
isn't that the opposite direction? It's like I should
Yeah,
be giving them something for being
you
an
guys,
opposite.
though, you guys are like bigger swinging dicks, though. I'd say if you asked, "Oh, you want us to do that? Well, can we have this, this, and this in return?" Like, I'm sure if you had said to Rogue, "Yeah, I'll come down and commentate in Salt Lake. You just build me a home gym in my house with Rogue stuff."
Dude, could you imagine that? God, that would be great.
Yeah,
That would
It'd be
be
so great.
with my wife and I. If we ever move, we've talked about. It's like wherever we go, the number one priority once you get your bathtub and closet and shower is that we need a garage that can accommodate some type of gym. And when we get that, it will be the most legit rogued out thing this world has ever seen. I'll probably have too much stuff in there to actually work out. It'll just
Your warm up will be emptying the shed, emptying the garage
Yeah.
of all this stuff.
oh, now I'm tired. Workout's over. Put it back in.
Obviously away from the actual competition at Rogue, I think everyone's favorite moments, well, mine anyway, were Hepner's trash talk and Coach Mike's honest appraisal of Chandler's lifting. Is there anything that stood out for either of you? Either, I suppose, Chase, you maybe have more insider knowledge of stuff happening off camera, but even competitive wise, or just like it itself.
The Hepner stuff was super cool because it gave a nice lighthearted banter between the athletes.
It's stuff that you don't see as well, because usually if they're at the games, they don't have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff.
I mean, and if they do, you don't get to see it. They don't post it online. So it was really fun to see that. And it was also fun because Hebner was actually doing well. It's fun to see someone in the mix also mixing it up. If he was in last place, I think it would have a different effect. Like, you know what? If you made less jokes and more pull-ups, you'd probably be doing better at the competition, but that wasn't the case for him.
He probably would have sounded a bit more bitter as well.
So that was really fun. The obviously when you get someone like Coach B on there to analyze everyone's lifting, especially in the way he does it, because you're talking about someone who's was he a Marine?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
right. Like an ex-Marine, just tell it straight the way it is.
He's the definition of not pulling punches.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it's not to a it's not degrading anyone's character or attacking them personally. It's like, yeah, that was a shit lift, and here's why. Like, okay, that's exactly the right assessment and answer to what just took place. So that was really fun. And things outside the, like I said, it was just seeing what it took and what Rogue and the media team that they work with did. Is people have no idea or appreciation of the immensity of the challenge at which they were given, also in the time frame at which they did it. We're talking about a matter of 4 to 6 weeks before they even had this idea. And I wish people knew how impossible it was for that to actually happen the way it did. But all they see is the final product. Like, well, why don't the games do that? Why doesn't this people do that? Why is like, you don't know, right? And so the behind the scenes, that's the only one I would really take away from and bring to light, is what the challenge should have not been able to take in place, but they pulled it off.
What about you, Bill?
I think what I liked most about it was, I mean, it's rare, I guess, that I get to be a spectator for these types of events. I'm usually, in the mix doing my thing that way. But as a spectator, the coolest element of that event was the fact that you literally could see every single athlete all the way through. So if they were last, you saw them. If they were in the majority of competitions, you have an eclipse zone. So if you're anywhere between like 4th place and 6th place, you never know where they finish. And that's why you always have people like Carrie Pierce that, like, you just don't see her. You don't see her finish. You don't see anything. And then all of a sudden, boom, she's on the podium. I mean, like that sort of a scenario. But in this setup, you could see every single rep of every single athlete all the way through. So I thought that was really, really great. I mean, when you have characters like Hepner in there, that's always super fun. I mean, I'm glad that he was in the mix this year. I mean, he had those couple years where he was kind of out of the mix a little bit, but I mean, the dude's a character, so he always brings fun to the scenario. And then when you get to have, I thought it was a really unique situation to be able to have Coach B doing, I mean, that's his specialty. And CrossFitters are not known to be specialists. We're really good at what we do, but we're not specialists. So when you have someone like Chandler Smith that is literally can, carry the world on his shoulders, but the way he gets it there is only someone that has the massive strength that he has to get it there. Like, that's pretty impressive. So I just thought it was really, really fun. There was a lot of a lot of honesty from the athletes and from the commentators and from the commentation that was happening. So it wasn't I don't know. I just felt like it didn't feel like a show. It felt like everybody was hanging out. And I think, with the way that it's been with everybody doing Zoom and, at that time when everything was closed down, the only way you really talk to anyone anyway was on Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, that all of a sudden everyone was in the same room, watching what was going on. So I thought that was super fun. I thought it was a really unique way to make that work the way that it did.
Yeah, I think as well, like we said at the start there, with the backdrop of what had gone on with Glassman and his like tweets and just like all of that coming to a head. I mean, I remember I had Arm and Hammer on an episode, and I think we released it on the Wednesday, and on the Monday or Tuesday, CrossFit was sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said on the episode, I mean, people are thinking, this isn't a direct quote, but roughly, I mean, people are thinking that Greg Glassman is going to sell. He will not sell one share. So
Yeah.
on the Monday, I put out a screen grab of that. And I was like, well, this aged well over the weekend. I was like,
I tell you
So,
what, if
but you're right
you
though.
question,
Yeah.
I would have said the same thing,
Totally, 100%. Like there was
without a doubt.
when it went down, I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
hmm.
Really?
I assumed it was like a fake headline, and it was just like, I don't want to say fake news, but you know what I mean. I was like, no, surely there's cross wires here or something, because he'll hardly sell the whole thing in one go. It
Yeah.
was mental, like.
I didn't think it'd be one piece of it.
Yeah.
I thought Greg and out of his character, he did sell it, but Greg's character up to that point would have been, I'm going to burn this,
It's either mine or it's nobody's.
with me.
Down with the ship, yeah.
So it was like I said, with Eric coming in, forget the fact that someone came in to buy it. The fact that the person who did turned out to be Eric Rosa, and what we've come to know about Eric, it was a miracle. All of it. Not just the fact that Greg sold it, but who he sold it to. In that time frame, again, should not have happened. It's the most un-2020 thing of 2020, Mike.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And even like we talked to, we saw Eric at the games, and he kind of told us about how it went down. And it was so happen chance, like, well, let's just see what happens. And then all of a sudden it happened. Like, I mean, the time frame in which that went down, companies don't get sold like that,
Yeah.
Companies don't get sold like that fast, and it just went down. But what I'm really happy with that sell is, on top of all of the, the wanting to change, diversity and wanting to look, help with the affiliates and all of the issues that there were, the greatest thing that I think could have happened is that a fan of CrossFit owns CrossFit, because a fan of CrossFit is not going to want anything bad to happen to CrossFit.
Yeah.
And I think that was
a successful fan as well.
Oh, totally. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, he's a businessman, and this business needed that jump. The business needed the jump, and so it gave that jolt, I think, to the company that it needed. And I mean, I'm really excited. I think, in all reality, I think that's why the whole Jillian Michaels thing came out, because it was like, well, shoot, CrossFit's back on the train, and everybody wants to be part of CrossFit again. So shit, I better hop on there and start taking shots at it, and get my 15 seconds of fame out of it.
Yeah, that's true. I think after Rogue, then we had like the games was kind of seemed to be perpetually postponed. Where that's a good way to test my mic, perpetually postponed. But I think as a fan, it was like frustrating. Now, obviously, hindsight is 2020, but hindsight,
Yeah, dude.
hindsight is perfect, right? But like at the time, I was like, just fucking cancel it. Like, just call it. Like, how long are you going to do this for? Come on, like this is just ridiculous. But I think so. Like, we'll say Vellner won Rogue, and then he did pretty well at Miami as well. Brent won Dubai. I had to double check that this was this season and not like last year. Sarah won Dubai. Laura Hobart, Strength and Depth. There was like, I suppose, from me watching it anyway, I was like, if there's a documentary of this year, this should be the redeemed and dominant year. This should be the year. This was a year of redemption where people who are kind of had a really shit time of it last year with the cuts and everything seemed to be coming back. There was seemed to be a lot of momentum building. And then, like, I think a challenge was coming from all sides because you had like the rookies, like say Adam Davison and Justin Medeiros, and all these people seemed to be, just seemed to real clamber on to take a shot at the crown, and it seemed like there was a huge kind of head growing on it, and it was going to burst. And then I suppose everything gets postponed, and it takes a bit of a hammering over the spring and summer, and then I think, like I said, I was kind of like, just fucking leave it. Like, without the benefit of hindsight, I assume you were both saying the same.
I did. Yeah. For me, it was, I think that would have been the one time that if CrossFit decided to cancel the games that year, there is nobody anywhere that would be like, oh, well, CrossFit's done. Like it's gone. The CrossFit Games is gone. Everything's gone. I don't think that would have been the case. I was concerned, and this is a fan of what we do. I mean, I love this stuff. This is what I do. This is my livelihood, and I love everything about it. So the last thing I would want is for a black eye, a bad attempt, a weak ass attempt of trying to do something just to say, oh, we did it. And that's what I was worried about. I mean, obviously I should have known who the players were. They're not gonna put something like that together, but that's the worry, and I didn't want that for our sport and our community. We didn't need to have another bad thing happen. It would have been just fine. I mean, and again, it's supposed to be the CrossFit Games, so you're supposed to have the best athletes there. How can you have the games if you don't have athletes that are able to travel, key players in the mix, the asterisk year, all that kind of stuff. And all of those fears, I think, were real. And I think that if they didn't do it the right way, that would be more damaging than just trying to put something on just to put it on. But the way all of it, all the postponements, all the things that were happening. But I Dave Castro, he's a gritty dude, and the way he was able to even when he was on our show, when he said that, he's like, once we decided it was on, like it was on. And they did exactly what they do. They put together an incredible presentation, an incredible competition. And even though, again, it wasn't the same as past years, I don't think at any rate, at any point, that it didn't do the job that it was supposed to do. There were people that were saying that that they wish that certain people made it to the second stage. It's like, well, yeah, totally. It's like, oh, well, if it would have been this person, and this person, it would have been great. I'm like, yeah, but they didn't qualify. Like, I mean, let's get back to the sports, you guys. Like, they didn't make the qualifying cut to get to that spot.
Yeah, I mean, if I had qualified, I would have finished fifth.
There, absolutely. But you would have had to You would have had to make it to the top five, get to the top five. Like, again. So I think that there are a lot of things that if you stand back and you look at the big picture, what they put together, I would have never expected it to be as good as it was. It really, and when we were there, it felt like the games. And that was a weird comment to say. Me and Chase said this, and to Sean all the time. It's like, dude, it really feels like the games. And it's like, well, you're at the games. Of course it does. But it really feels like it, It doesn't feel like a what if. It doesn't feel like an asterisk. It feels like it's supposed to. And that's what I thought was so great about us. We were back.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you're watching it as well. I think, like, your preconceptions towards something will really dictate how much you enjoy it or not. Like, so if you're on a downer with the sport, and if you're like, oh, fuck CrossFit, like, and whatever, and then it's on, you're like, oh, it should have been cancelled. Like, you'll find things that will piss you off about it. Like, even when the events were being announced, it was like, oh, fucking kettlebell lunges, fuck's sake, like, and then it was a fun event, and then it was like, even within that you had stuff of like the kettlebell placing mattering more than probably anything else in the workout.
Yeah.
And then you had like, oh, fucking trail run, of course there's a twist. And it's like, yeah, but still, like, people
Right.
were giving out about the fact that, technically it was only a surprise for Matt and Justin. And it's like, I'd say it was a pretty fucking big surprise for people when they saw Matt and Justin coming back up the hill. Like,
Yeah.
like I think
Were you surprised halfway? No. Were you surprised to see Matt Fraser running towards you again? You'd be like, yes.
But I think, like, speaking of surprise, like, how surprised were you at the final 5 men and women that qualified? Because I suppose, like, a lot was told by, say, Morning Chalk Up did a giveaway on predict the final 5, and we'll give you all these prizes. And then at the end, they were like, we can't give away the prizes because nobody was close enough. Like,
Yep.
I think it shows how it was like, all right, okay, like, even when you saw the workouts, you were still like, well, I mean, Tim Bolson should do pretty well in that workout, and then that guy should do well in the row. And then, like, you see the table at the end, you're like, oh, nope, totally way off. The only people that made sense are the top 2, which were just gimmies anyway.
Right.
Welcome to sports.
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
blame
I
on
mean,
sports.
that's what I love. Like, you can analyze, like, at the desk all you want. And when they say 3, 2, 1, go, anyone can win at any time.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Do you do fantasy football?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. Like, well, I do. Like, it's soccer, you'd call it, but
Oh yeah. Okay.
fantasy football. And every year I pick my team. It starts in like August. Every year I pick my team, and I'm like, oh man, nobody stands a chance. This is like, I know I'm on max points every week. I'm gonna be, and fuck my own league, I'm gonna be top of the world with this. And then after about a week, it's like, okay, damage control. What can I do?
I'm actually curious. How do they do fantasy football? Like, how are
so
the things scored? Or
there's 11 players on the soccer team, so you get 11 players plus a subs bench. So you get like 3 outfield players and a goalie on your subs bench.
okay.
So this is all off the top of my head now. If you so you pick a captain, and your captain gets double points.
Mm-hmm.
But if your captain goes into negative score, that gets doubled. So if they get sent off,
Oh,
that gets doubled as well. And then you pick a vice captain. So if your captain doesn't play, your vice becomes your captain, and they get double points or whatever. Your goalie gets like 6 points, I think, for a clean sheet if they don't concede any goals. Defenders get 6 points for a clean sheet, and they get more points. So the strikers get, I don't know, like 4 points or something, I think, if they score a goal.
okay.
And if they assist a goal, they get a certain amount of points. Midfielders get more points than the strikers if they score a goal, and defenders get like a stupid amount of points if they score a goal. So what I figured out last year was you're better off picking who takes free kicks, corners, like stuff like that, because you're going to get more assists.
Wow.
So I used to be like, right, I need to have this striker because he always scores. Like, he'll at least score once a week. But then I realized you're better off having a midfielder that does that every 2 weeks because it works out in more points. But yeah, I always realize this stuff like afterwards. I'm like, oh, why didn't I do this like 8 months ago when it started? Like, of course, the guy that's winning is right and I'm wrong. Now, next year, I'll learn my lesson. And then the next year, I'm like, right, who's my favorite team? Let's pick as many of those players as I can. Who's my second favorite team? Let's pick. It all goes out the window. But going back to 2020, so I guess like COVID fucked the earth in the a-hole, and like how it affected the sport, obviously, but even away from that, like gym owners, gym goers, like moving away from the competition and the sport of CrossFit. I suppose it's a business as well, and a livelihood and a community, and these are the things that, like, it's the reason it survived the summer, really, is because of the community, and because of, like, we talked about Rogue moving online, but you had coaches and affiliates everywhere pivoting and changing everything that they were doing, like, renting out equipment, loaning out equipment, finding ways to get people a dumbbell or something so that they could work out, so they could train, like changing all their programming. Like, even our own gym, they rented out equipment, but then had to program, okay, if you've got this, you can do this, and if you don't have that, but you have this, you can do this. Like, endless hours of just like scratching your head trying to think, like, oh Jesus, who has what and who doesn't have anything that still needs to train and that's still paying for a service or whatever. Like, you're both gym owners. I suppose your prevailing feelings of the year will move aside from obviously frustration. Like how will you remember 2020 as a gym owner? So Bill, if you want to start.
I'll be straight up and honest with this. Is crappy as the whole COVID thing is, and what it's done to individuals with people losing their jobs and stuff like that. Like that is obviously terrible, and that affects. I mean, as we rely on our members to be able to pay for their membership, so I mean, like that, there's a direct impact there. But what I found with this year is that it gave me an element that a lot of other, like the big Globo gyms, don't have. They have one plan, and their plan only works that way. Where, since we're a smaller gym, boutique style type of gym, if you will, where I know my members, I know their families, I know their jobs, I know their injuries, I know their sicknesses, I know their birthdays, I know everything about them, and I know how to make them better. And this allowed me to all of a sudden take a jump up, because I now could pivot fast. And not that I'm happy that it happened, but I'm happy that I got the opportunity to be able to show my members as well as myself that, like, I don't care what comes at me, I'm going to figure it out and I'll be able to make it work. And I think that was important for our members to see, was that they now knew it. I don't just put a workout for them to do. I'm setting it up so that they're able to succeed. And whether that was watching what other people did or how people did other things, whatever, like we pivoted on a day, boom, one day, and had a plan set out so that all of our people were going to be business as usual. And we did everything we could to make it be that way. And I think that our members, they were happy about that, because that gave them that normality in the very unnormal time frame. But what I think that, overall, what 2020 did for me was it showed me that, like, okay, I can make things happen and make it work if I need to make it work. Like, I don't care what it is. I will make something happen. And CrossFitters kind of do that anyway. That's kind of our mantra, is set up whatever the stupid ass workout is and we'll get through it. And to me, that's what this was. It was a 1 year ugly ass workout, and we just chipped away at it. So I was not happy that it happened. I was happy on what we were able to do. I was happy with my members and how they were able to handle it, in our little local community. I think that was a good thing. And honestly, like, I now know, I have the confidence that if something, I mean, we're already in a second shutdown, and I'm not even worried. I'm not worried about what we need to do. Or are we going to be able to make it? Because I know we're going to make it. But it's nice to be tested, and this year was a test, one gigantic test.
Yeah, might be nicer to have an easier test next time.
I would just like to have, just a multiple choice test would be nice.
Yeah,
not
your
a written
late.
essay test.
What about you, Chase?
Along the same lines, what Bill was talking about is there's a few things I've gained from it. And for me, the hard growth was a hard introspective look at the way, for one, just to be brutally honest, the way I've run the business. And I put that in quotes because I've never run the gym as a business. And that has been not an issue until.
Thank God you're saying that too, because I feel so stupid. Because I'm the same way, man. I get it.
Like I said, I was like, I've never really talked about this that much, but it's like this situation where we're probably down 40% of what our original membership was. Now I'm making some personal sacrifices to make sure none of my coaches are effective. Our finances are taken care of. It's like, what on earth was I doing before this, where I felt like I was in the same exact position I'm in now with the amount of people and profits that I had prior to this? So if anything COVID taught me in a positive light is that, well, the negative was I was the world's worst business owner. But seeing of what we've done through this is that I was what the world's, I mean, not the world's, but what I'm saying is I was a fantastic coach and gym owner where people who could stayed still stayed, and those that could stayed helped turn around and help me through this trying time. So I'm proud of the community that I've built since we opened. I'm disappointed in the way I've run the business since we've opened. And I never had, like, I've always been like, oh, why are we always having this issue and this struggle? And why are we always short with this and this, that? And it's been like that since we've opened the gym, right? It's like, how does my gym live paycheck to paycheck? How did we ever feel like that was the case when we actually are currently doing it now? So the hopefully what I'm looking forward to is that once we get past this, that the amazing things that lie ahead now with a better business sense of the way it can still run while still providing it this as or presenting it as like it's still the gym, it's still about the community, it's about the training, it's about health, fitness, and happiness, while actually making this a successful and thriving business opportunity for myself, which is the whole reason why I started this. I mean, other than obviously the love and passion for CrossFit, as well as give other opportunities to other people. So that was the big thing looking in. And the other honest position for me is that, you know, we did the same thing as like what that Bill did, is that we had to shut down, we had to pivot, we had to rent equipment, and, you know, we did all these certain things in what it was seemed like a matter of days. And it was the hardest programming I've ever had to do. And for what, 3 months? Is like, okay, I had to program a workout as if everyone had everything. And then one, if you had one dumbbell or kettlebell, or then one that had a body weight only, like nothing involved. And I had to do that 5 times a week plus something on the weekend for 3 straight months. And you run out of things to do because you're so hampered by the limited equipment or body weight stuff. So like that really challenged me in a way that I took as an opportunity, but it was tough. It was some of the toughest months of programming of my CrossFit career. Getting out of that, I'm even more excited and it's more fun now that we have access and free form to do what we want to do. So there was a lot of self-reflection and really hard conversations of my shortcomings that I had to do over quarantine.
I'd say there's a lot of that though, because even like there's certain gyms you kind of, I suppose like when a newer gym closes down, you're like, oh, that's like, it's awful, and you feel bad for everyone involved. And it's like, you know, maybe they didn't have the time to build up the kind of the accounts, or they didn't have the time to build up the community big enough like to support it or whatever. But then when you see like some of the gyms in America that closed down that have been open 10, 12 years, and it's kind of like I'm assuming it's from what you're saying there, Chase, where people were like, I love this sport, I love this mode of fitness, I love the community, I love whatever. And then eventually a time came where their accountant was like, well, you didn't really love the business side of it very much, and that's why this is happening. Do you know, like I think it does show like it's hard not to lose what you're talking about there. Like you're saying that you don't want to lose that thing of the community and why the why behind it, but you also want to like move into your new house with your new road garage. Like you also want to have like a good high quality of life for you and your coaches who are working there without having to sacrifice the community. Like you don't want to put it out of reach of anyone who goes there, but you also don't want to put anything that you want out of reach either.
The majority of us that started these, especially a long time ago, we're not business people. We
Yeah.
didn't know anything about that at all.
But if you
So
had asked yourself a couple of years ago, Bill, am I a TikToker? You would have said no to that. And look at you now.
hey, it's just so you know, before TikTok, it was called Musically, and I actually had that. So I was checking things out. I was
hell
just
is
keeping it on the down low. That's all. That's all. You know,
Musically? What is that?
Is it Musically
that's
like where
Musically was what TikTok was.
you mime to music and record? Isn't
Yeah.
it like teenage girls
That's
Oh,
pretending?
exactly what it was. So it was the true version of what people say TikTok is now, but that's
Yeah.
really what it was. Like, yeah, I remember I got that in this short little sidetrack story. I got that originally, and I think my daughter was 17 or 16 at the time. And I said, hey, so what's up with this Musical.ly app? And she's like, oh, that's dumb. Nobody uses that. And
Like,
then
let me
I
make
can
my
imagine you. I can imagine you walking into the room so full of hope, being like, "I've got her. She's
got
gonna be
this
my.
one."
She's gonna be my best friend after this." And it's like, "And what's up with that Musical.ly? Oh, that's done. Oh,
That's dumb, Dad. Oh, crap.
yeah. Um, I think getting back to the competitive side of things, then with the aromas, like, I mean, just so many like wow moments. I think just even for me as a fan watching, like I said, I guess your attitude going into it will decide how much you enjoy it or don't enjoy it. And I think I was just so ready for like having had the Rogue Invitational and then a long gap, and then I guess I don't want to say disappointment of stage one, but I think from what I thought it was going to be, and from what I suppose what I convinced myself it was going to be, based like CrossFit didn't tell me anything as per, but I told myself this is going to be another Rogue Invitational. This is going to be a live stream, or this is going to be like the review show is going to show me all their, it's going to line them all up and go through them all or whatever. And then when it didn't, I was like, oh fuck, like, is that it? Is that it? Are you just going to say like this guy finished first and this guy finished second and then move on? I was like, where's the rest of it? So I think now that's my fault. Like, I don't blame anyone involved for that, because I suppose I assumed, and we all know what assumed does, but I assumed what it was going to be and I was wrong, and then I was disappointed by it. But I think I was just so ready for the aromas, and I was so like filled with hope of like, please let it be what I want it to be, like please let it be what I need it to be. And then when it was, I was just like, oh, thank fuck that this is just that I'm not disappointed. But like, I mean, you had so many things, like, okay, like Matt and Tia, just the whole thing from them. Then you had like Justin with his handstand, like the kind of like, what was he doing? Oh my god, this is so stupid. Oh, it worked. Like that whole scenario. You had like we mentioned there, you had the new CEO present and doing a workout, which is just bizarre and so cool to have someone so like personally involved in the sport, taking part in the sport and owning the sport. Then you have the turnaround and the run. And then I think actually a weird personal highlight for me was Matt and Tia both getting almost identical no reps on the same stage of the same workout, like, which is just bizarre. Is there anything that stood out for either of you over, because obviously you were there and you were able to see everything firsthand and maybe see some stuff and hear some stuff that we didn't see or hear, but is there anything that really you think will remain with you long term from that weekend?
Who do you want?
Oh, both together in unison.
Wait,
In unison.
what?
Go on, Bill. You go first. I'm gonna edit that
Coffee
bit
pot sponsor that plane ticket.
Bill, you
All right,
start that.
I'll hop up. I think for me, yeah, there were a lot of really, really great moments. The knee-jerk reaction would be that you want to automatically have the old ways be done the way it's supposed to be. Like that's kind of, I think that's what everyone thinks, is they want to look exactly like it used to be. They want that old blanket and be able to pull it up and smell the same smells and all that kind of stuff. What I was most happy with was that this was the most unique year of any year that it will ever be. And it was pulled off amazingly. I think it wasn't identical to what's been in the past, but it really was. The races were great. The fact that we got to see, I mean, two of the most insanely fit people ever to walk this earth do the things that they did. I mean, it is the same as watching Michael Jordan, watching Tiger Woods, watching Muhammad Ali, watching any of those great sport history events. It took place. And in all of those other ones, everyone's still, I mean, Mike Tyson, it would be the same thing. It was like, well, I'm not even going to watch this fight because it's going to last 30 seconds. It's like, oh, it's boring to watch Mike fight. Yet now, if you were to look back, how much would you give to see Mike in his prime? How much would you give to see Muhammad Ali in his prime, or Tiger Woods, or any of the great athletes do what they do and smash all the people that they compete with live? And we got to see that. And on our end, mine and Chase's end, we got to present that to our community that needed that, and needed to see the competition and needed to have that. That to me is what that's what I take back from that. I mean, there were so many like tiny little event things that, Justin and Matt talking on the way back, and Matt, just flooring it at the end. Haley twisting her ankle after already twisting her ankle and still being able to do what she did. Carrie, the way she finished that last event, the Atlanta. I mean, like all those little tiny things were amazing, but you would expect to see those great things happen at the CrossFit Games. That's our World Championships. But the fact that it was the most unique one, and we got to be part of something that will never ever be done again in that scenario. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Well, I actually don't think, even if it was, even with COVID, I don't think that I don't think they'll do it the same way as they did it this year.
No,
I think that they would do it different. So we did it. It was the pivot, and it was the presentation of that pivot, and that's what I take from that, is that was. I'm proud to be part of that. Really proud to be part of that.
That's good. So for me, let's see. I'll do personal side and then maybe a professional side. So, professional, we'll use that term loosely. I mean, I'm on this podcast.
I was going to say, were you not in the boot of a car at one point?
So on a personal level, and I've told the story a few times, is that being able to go to Aromas for the first time after coming into Cross in 2008 was a very special moment for me because of the history of the CrossFit Games for one, but just the history of CrossFit in general as two. I believe Aromas is woven into the fabric of what CrossFit is really, what was all founded on. Like that all came together in this beautiful way and grew and flourished the way it had until 2019, 2020. But that was very special for me because I'd never been there. I've always watched videos and stories and talked to people and all this and whatever. And it's like, oh, it was this whole build up to what it was. And then being able to finally step foot on the ranch in person was a very, very special moment. And I didn't overbuild it up either. And you're talking about like expectations can dictate the way you react to things. It was even more than I was expecting. And I was expecting a lot. So that was very special for me in person, just to see that. The other one was being on site with everybody that we worked with and grew up with professionally, behind the scenes, directly on camera, Dave and Justin Berg and all these other people that basically were disbanded after 2018. All the people we knew that really did the work to make what the games were. And you probably won't ever hear of 95% of them, but we know them on a personal level because of the profession that we're in. So to be able to sit there in this shortened, weird format, but see the right people in the right places when you thought you would never see them again, that was super special. And the most special one for me, and I never told Bill this, but Bill originally wasn't going to be a part of the broadcast, the way things were structured. And that really bothered me on a personal level, just because, I've worked with Bill for a long time. Obviously, we have our podcast together with Get With The Programming, but it really upset me that Bill was going to have to sit out and watch the games for the second year. And the fact that he got the nod to come back and be a part of it was one of the, I would say, top 5 special moments for me, to be able to have him there when I know he deserved it more than anybody, and to be able to work with him in the place that I never, again, thought I would ever be there myself, and then to be able to do it side by side with Bill. So that was a special.
That was my 10th. This was my 10th year too. I'm the longest running CrossFit commentator. This is my 10th, my decade year.
Decade of commenting.
Are we just going to gloss over that from Chase? He
no, man. That was emotional level. I'm not going to gloss that at all.
What's funny is open and you're like, yeah, it was 10 years as well.
Well, no. Well, what he didn't see is when I got the nod, I was bouncing around like a damn little 12-year-old kid screaming, wee, wee, I get to play with the cool kids. Yeah. So no, I appreciate that, dude. That's obviously super special. Man, I can't tell you how happy it was. That's what I mean. Like, to be part of that whole thing this year with everyone that was there is unreal. The weird thing is like our group, our media team, we are a team. It's like if you get together with that college team that you had or that high school team that you were part of. I mean, we're a very eclectic group for sure. Everyone that's involved, but everyone just is like meshed together so damn tight.
Shit, Tanya was there too.
Awesome. It's awesome.
You know, Tanya Wagner was a huge surprise. So, you know, Bill's been doing it for a decade, but once we really all started to come on the scene early, like that original grouping was like the four horsemen was Bill, Tanya, Sean, and then I was like the fourth wheel spare on the back. But like that was a close group when we really got into it. And then we started adding amazing pieces as the years went on. Mm-hmm. But if I think about like that really core start, that's what I think about.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of fall
there in the time in which we desperately needed it. That was really exciting to have.
That's a bit of false modesty there. I mean, even your metaphor even fell apart where you're the fourth wheel.
The fourth wheel.
What vehicle are you driving?
we're on a trike motorcycle, and it's the fourth wheel.
I was the fourth wheel, but I was the spare, you know? So like it's that fourth wheel that doesn't line up. You're like, this piece, the small tire with no hubcap on it.
Yeah.
No, man, all integral tire, parts, man. No, he is right. I mean, it was.
I'm right. I was that weird wheel.
Yeah, he's right.
I was gonna say we're the team. You bonehead. God. So funny. So funny.
After the games is over, then you guys interview Castro. Like, do you give a shit like about who you're talking to? Because I know, like, you know, he has a reputation of like, obviously he's like, you know, one of the biggest names in sport because of what he does and everything. And like, if your whole podcast is centered around programming and I guess picking apart specifically his programming over the last, like, whatever, 12, 13 years, and then you get him on, like, are you anyway wary of what you say or how you say it? Or are you just kind of like, it's Dave, it's grand, I don't really give a shit, like, we'll just ask him. If he doesn't answer like at least 35% of questions he's asked anyway, he just says like, oh, I don't want to talk about that, and then he's probably the only person that gets away with it, because anytime I've heard anyone like talking to Lead, anyone interview him, and he's like, I'm not ready to talk about that yet, and it's just kind of like there's a 3-second silence, and then it's like, okay, and they just move on. It's like that like ballsy stare where he's like, no, I'm literally not going to talk about that, move on. So, but I think when I heard that you guys are getting him on, I was like, oh, cool, this would be great. And then I was like, oh man, I wonder have they said anything awkward on any of the episodes, and has he heard it? Because you're literally saying like, here's where he did his job really well, here's where he fucked up. I was like, welcome to the show, Dave. Like, was there any kind of apprehension about interviewing him?
There's always a little bit, only out of respect for who Dave is. But the other part of that is that we have a good rapport with Dave. You know, we are, I would say, as quote friends as you could be with who Dave Castro is and what he allows you to be in terms of how he views you as a friend. But at the same time, there is a bit of nervousness, because, you know, the biggest thing for me, what I was nervous about, is I wanted to make sure is that if we're going to get Dave Castro on to talk about how we developed the programming, being a programming podcast, that we did a good job of presenting Dave and his views in the conversation well enough that the viewers and listeners actually wanted to receive that information. That was more where I got nervous. It wasn't the interaction between Dave. It was the product that we have. Like, to me, the most pressure I felt was announcing we're getting Dave. So this better be a good show. That's where I had the most nervousness. It wasn't actually with any interaction with Dave himself.
And then for us I think the direction that we came at with Dave is different than the way most interviews will be with Dave. When other people interview Dave, they're trying to find out, okay, how are you trying how are you trying to mess us up, or what inside scoop can you give us on whatever, whether it's the games or a certain events or whatever. Where we came at him, it was like pottery class. Hey, what are you going to make? Hey, why did you make that flamingo that color? What? How did you come up with that? Like, well, so what we have said on our podcast is that we see programming that's our creative outlet. That's our art. So whether you're a painter or you're a sculptor or whatever, and even David said this, he's used that metaphor. So for us, it gave us a chance to geek out on the numbers, on the creativity part. And I knew we hit it right when all of a sudden Dave got real giddy about it was the Happy Star event. When he wanted to talk about that, like all of a sudden he wasn't Dave Castro, director of the CrossFit game. What's the new title?
Director of Sport.
Director of Sport. It wasn't that guy anymore. It was, hey, look at my picture that I drew. I wanted to draw this one comic book, and look what I came up. This is what I made. Like, and he got that giddy about it, and that's what we were doing. So that show really wasn't about us picking apart his events as of yet. We wanted him to be able to show us your art, man. Tell us why you did it this way. How did you come up with this? What made you pick this thing and not that thing? What were you trying to do with this? How did you come up with the testing of this? And I think that, I mean, there was more testing that was shown to people this year than ever. And I think that gave a very cool look into what Dave does and how he comes about with these events, so that they aren't just haphazardly put together. And I mean, we've done all the games. We've looked at all the games, and there have been events where like, what the fuck was that? Like that. I still don't get it. I still don't get it, and there will be events that, that we talked about that we didn't necessarily individually. I didn't see the need for that, or I didn't like that was in there, or I didn't like how this was put in there. But again, like that's our subjective opinion on his art. Just like if you're to look at a Picasso and be like, well, I like the colors, but that face looks really weird. I don't really like it. I don't really get it. I mean, that's fine. But then we can look at it objectively, and see how it fits. And I mean, and I will say this, I mean, as much without trying to blow smoke up that guy's ass, like he is good at programming. He's good at programming competitive events that are trying to get a particular response. And every time we've gone through the games, for the most part, he's pretty much hit the mark. There's been a couple testing years that you can kind of see, but we're programmers, so we understand that. We will put out workouts for our gym and be like, oh, that one was awesome. And then the next day you're like, oh shit, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board on that one because that one did not work out right. So I thought it was really fun to see that part of him. And I hope that when people get to see, when they listen to that or see that show, that they get that same thing. They see that artsy side of Dave, rather than Dave, the guy that wants to drop his watch or drop the mic or drop the whatever,
You know what pissed me off about him, actually? I've said this to Chase before. I've replied to some of his stories. Like, this is how I get people on. I reply to their stories, or I'll message them. And I know 9 times out of 10, I know I have them if they reply. So if I get a message back, I know I'll get them on somehow, like, or if someone close to them writes back. He has written back to me, I'd say about 25 times. And he fucking never commits to coming on. So, like, I was saying to Chase before, I can't tell you, like, day to day, I'm just fucking hilarious, so I can't remember a specific moment. But I know he put something up and I replied with a joke, and he was like, ha ha ha. And I was like, oh shit, I have him. And then he said something else, and I said something else, ha ha. And I was like, oh, he's still laughing. This is great. Now I hit him with it. No reply. Then that happened about 10 more times, where I like 3 or 4 back and forths of, like, I think I said this to you, Chase. It's like a backwards pyramid of, like, ha ha ha. Then I'll reply again, ha ha. Then I'll reply again, ha ha. And it's like, and I'll always say, I'll be like to my wife, I'm like, holy shit, I have him. Like, he's replying again. Surely this time. It's like, oh no, only 2 ha-has. Then it's like, oh fuck, he's down to 1. And then it's like, he's seen it and he hasn't replied. It's just like, but I remember I said that to Chase and he was like, oh yeah, that's Dave. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's just
totally
like,
him.
If you can
Yeah.
get a 3 out of him, that's a genuine reply. But 2 is a default, and then the 1 is a legitimate effort to not do a double haha. Like,
How can I
even your
reply
phone-
but insult at the same time?
even your phone would be like, "Do you mean haha?" You're like, "No."
Yeah, it autocorrects and he deletes it.
Yeah, delete. Find the small X with my fat finger. No. Ha. I'm like, that's when he actually took more effort to do that one than the 3.
Yeah, no, someday. Moving on then. So, I guess New Year's Day is the day after tomorrow when this is released.
Ah.
So we'll have a new year. Obviously,
Yes.
we're hoping for like no death and destruction and all the rest of all the obvious things that we want within the sport and the methodology of CrossFit, like under everything that comes under the banner, with Eric at the helm, with the changes that are being made, like even just from my own standpoint, I see a lot more transparency already. I see a lot more communication already. I see positives like Brent and those guys setting up the athletes association. I see like James, Hobart, and Annie, and those guys with the athlete liaison kind of group. Like there's a diversity panel being created. There's like they seem to be they're trying to do everything they can possibly do to fix the glaringly obvious broken bits that have been broken in the past, and like making an obvious effort to try and fix these things. And then you've got, okay, it's a bit like American biased, I guess, but you've got like the state reps and that
Yep.
kind of stuff. The thing that Chase went for and didn't get.
I
but
didn't
like,
either.
it's a bit like that kind of stuff is a bit like Americanized, where like that hasn't really happened here as much. But hopefully, from hearing Eric talk on Talking Elite and stuff, they seem to be kind of rolling it out further. Do you see 2021? Obviously, it has to be a better year. I mean, fucking hell, if it's worse, just call it now, and we'll just skip to 2022. But like, what are some of the things that maybe you're hopeful for, or what are some of the things that you've heard whispers about that you think might actually come to fruition and make it a better year for the sport? So Chase, you can start this time.
The biggest thing I hope for is, with all of those plans in place, is patience from the community and just everyone around paying attention to what's happening in CrossFit, because these things that they're trying to fix and change is like turning the Titanic. They're turning the wheel, which is all you can ask them to do. But when these things need to be put in place and then unfold in the way they want them to, this is going to take some time to get it to where they want it to. They're not stopping at, hey, we're doing this. They're not going to stop until it's fixed and it's a non-issue, but it will take time. So
I think a good thing that I saw actually was when Eric was on Talking Elite and they were talking about bringing the adaptive athletes in to the Open. I think the thing that really stood out and really gave me hope for it was when he said, now we're not going to get it right in 2021. And I was like, thank God he said that, because otherwise you'd have every dickhead shouting, oh, they fucked up this part. Like, at least he said from the get-go, we know we won't get it right, but this is day one of trying to, which I think is really important.
And I think the biggest pushback from a lot of people who are not fans of CrossFit, or if they're in the community but don't like the stigma that comes with old HQ, is that the old HQ was unapologetically righteous, as if they could do no wrong. They can not be told if they did something out of order or that wasn't the right way to do it. Like that just wasn't the way it was run. And so when you have the CEO saying, we're going to screw this up while trying to do it right, I love the transparency there. And my hope is that, and it won't happen, but people can look at that and be like, look, we're going to give you grace and understand is like, we're going to support you because of the steps and decisions that you are currently making, and not judge you based off the outcomes that aren't happening yet because they can't. So that's a big one. I'm looking forward to 2021. And the other one would be what the new game season format is going to look like.
Do you know what it's going to look like?
Well, the whispers is that semantics aside is like sanctioned events replace regionals, but they qualified one person. But the whispers is that the Open is going to go back to the traditional filtering process to a regional like system, whatever you want to call that qualification circuit. That's what it's going to be. And then once that circuit takes place, that will qualify a certain number of people to the CrossFit Games. So you won't have this sanctioned one person. It'll be like a regional system. And then to get away, and what a big drawback of past regionals was, if you were in a stacked region, you were totally screwed, right? If your region had the 10 best, but they're only taking the 5, and you look at another region where the person who won wouldn't even get 20th in the region you're in, what I heard was they're going to create a last chance qualifying grouping where they would, like, for example, I'm just making this up now, but they took the top 3 from every region. The next 2 in all of those regions would qualify for a last chance live competition, of which they would take the next top 3 from that. So it would almost be this wild card live competition. So if you were in a stacked region, guess what? You're going to have one more opportunity against the other people who just missed this to make the CrossFit Games, and then the CrossFit Games will go on. That's what I've read and seen so far from what other people are putting out there. And you can go find it anywhere you want to at the moment. But whatever that system does look like, if that gets fleshed out into more reality, I'm excited about that. I've also heard they want to get a rid or away from the super teams where you can be at any corner of the world and qualify a team for an event and then go back to your corner of the world, as opposed to be in that.
My Coffee Pods and Wods team is fucked.
You guys are out. So, but I don't know if they want to go back to the affiliate team model, where you had to be a part of an affiliate. You can only make your team from those training in your gym at the time at which the Open begins, or the start of the calendar year, or maybe some combination of the two, because it might be they're going to keep the super teams and qualify at the games, but then maybe create a different affiliate cup on the side, like they do with the Masters and Teens, as well as what I would hope they would do with maybe the national champions, and get them out of the games individual team circuit and give their own side competitions at the CrossFit Games. So if those happen to get fleshed out to more definitive things, that sounds like a way more exciting and easier to follow system to me.
And you're assuming then sanctionals in the off season, opportunity to make money, travel,
yes.
And
yeah. So with an off season of some type of structured sanctioned season with the support of CrossFit, versus the other way around, where sanctioned events are paying $50,000 to $75,000 to save CrossFit's ass, where it should actually be the other way around.
Yeah. Bill, 2021.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot on the old tablet there to try to fix, and there have been a lot of really, really, really important and well planned out first steps. I think something that is important is that, just like anything, you can only make so many changes, effective changes at one time. You could have your gigantic list of 35 things that need to get fixed, but you aren't going to be able to make an effective change on 35 things at one time. So I think taking those initial first steps is important. The transparency of saying, like, hey, I got listening to Eric talk about this next year. I got the impression that he knows that this year is going to be just as jacked up, not jacked up as last year, because last year was like someone pulled the rug out, the carpet right out from under you. But as far as like trying to juggle all the balls at one time, so he's knowing that this is going to be a not perfect year by any means, and the fact that he's saying that, I think, is smart on his part, to let everyone know that, like, hey, nobody gets things that goes from whatever this last year was to perfect in 1 year. It's impossible. So the fact that he's ready to do that, the fact that he's constantly still driving and he's putting people in positions to do those. It's not a one man. This is not a one man show. I mean, he is putting, people in the European area, in the Latin American area. It's like, I need you to take care of this. Boom, and like go run. And then he has meetings with those. Like you can see the business orientation, the way he's structuring it. Is going to work, but it's going to take some time for all of those teams to, build themselves and get some momentum behind them to be able to create those changes. So do I think it's going to be a perfect year? No. Do I think that there's going to be a lot that's going to be switching and moving and a lot of moving pieces? Yeah. But I feel that it's all going in a positive direction, which is way better than the direction that is. I mean, the only direction it had been going previous to this was swirling downwards. And I don't see that being the case this year, even if it's kind of shotgunny in a bunch of different directions. There's a lot of things that have to happen. So I'm really excited to see what the changes will be. As far as the games stuff goes, they've been talking about, even when the regionals were going on, they've been talking about a Grand Prix style event. And now that we have, a professional athletes group, trying to take care of these athletes, and we have athletes who are going to be competing for money as they kind of go around. So you have your games track and you have your money track. I think that's exciting. I mean, it really broadens the scope for what these athletes are doing and can do. I think it will keep a lot of the athletes in our sport, because the way CrossFit was running, the direction that if you weren't one of the top 3-5 athletes, you were not making a lot of money. So you were being forced to have to find another avenue, which I think the OCR world was really starting to be very aware of that. And so they were opening up their doors. And so you're starting to see, Spartan pulling a lot of these CrossFitters into doing competitions, and there's money to be had there. And OCR, same type of thing. So if we were continuing down that path, we would be losing a lot of our athletes to a lot of other sports. And I think that this new setup, at least on paper, the way it's, lightly penciled to look like, I think it has the ability to really keep these athletes in our world, in our sport, but be able to be a professional athlete and be able to, compete at the highest level, still make a living, and, and set that up the right way. So I think that this year it's a springboard year for sure. And there's going to be a lot of things to fix, even on the competitive side. But, as long as everyone sees that we are driving in a positive direction, in the right direction, I think people are going to be pretty fired up about it. I know I am.
Yeah, I think as well, in a nice circular narrative, we're back where we started, of sanctionals getting cancelled, and we talked about the work that goes into them. We talked about the effort and how gut wrenching it must be to pull the plug on something. So I think it would be a shame moving forward if there isn't an opportunity for those people that, like, you think of the Loud Live series, you think of Filthy, you think of the French Throwdown, all these competitions, Dubai, that have spent so long building up a reputation and like a wow factor. I mean, imagine if they were just like with Miami, just be like, nah, yeah, that's done now, we'll move on to something else. They'd be like, what? Like, what a waste. So I
Yeah.
think I am really hopeful. I think as well, like, the thing, like, a lot of people, you can poo-poo the sanctional season and the way that it worked and everything if you want, but again, it's how you look at something. So like, I saw athletes compete that I would have never had the opportunity to see compete if it wasn't for Filthy 150 being on, and I met people that I'd never have the opportunity to meet through Filthy 150 being on in my own backyard. And I think that it made the sport more, it like highlighted the community level of the sport, where you've got these people going to places, and you've got, like, Joshua Shama was down in Brazil, he still talks about it. Like, Khan was in China, still talks about getting his ball slapped in a massage parlor. There's all these things that, like, these guys have had these experiences that they would have never had if it had not been for the sanctioned season. So I think, yeah, it needs to change, and they're going to change to something, but hopefully they don't lose the things that they've gained by through the mistakes that they've made, or through the, you know, uh, changes that people might view as mistakes. Hopefully they hold on to the character that they've earned through that.
Well, and at least now there's a direction. When the
Yeah.
sanctions were set up before, the direction was, okay, you guys go ahead and do your own thing.
Mm.
And like that was literally all the direction they got. So it was nice that they had a lot of creativity to, you know, try to highlight their, you know, their area, their region, their country, whatever, you know, the situation was. But there was no direction. And so now that there is direction, like those people for the most part aren't just cut out of the system. They're trying to be integrated into the system, whether it's on the qualifying track or if it's on the money track. And I think that that's important, because you're right. They're that I've heard anyway, the majority of the athletes that have gone to these sanctional events come back with amazing experiences. And that's what the most of the sanction operators or the directors are trying to do, is they want to give their athletes a great experience so that they want to come back, and give them something to remember their event by. Because if these big name athletes had a great time and want to come back, that's going to draw people in. It's going to draw other athletes. It's going to draw spectators. It's going to draw sponsors. So, I mean, that's definitely a positive thing. But really none of those directors got any support. They were scrambling, trying to come up with something. And I think that for the most part, they all did a really, really, really good job with what they were dealt. But now at least there's some direction. You know, CrossFit and the sanctions, you know, more holding hands rather than give me your lunch money, you know, you come up with something good, you know, or we're not going to let you do it next year. You know, like that sort of overlord type of setup. I don't see that being the case. So it should be a good year. Be exciting.
Yeah. Well, that's a positive note to end on.
I think so.
Well, listen, thanks very much. I want to say as well, congratulations on your podcast. I think
Thank you.
It's a unique idea, and I think it's working out really well. And I think you're quickly making a name for yourselves in another realm. I mean, you could have like pissed off and stayed in your own box for a while, but like if you want to come over to, if you want to really make a monopoly on everything, I suppose. No, but I think it's great. I think it gives legitimacy to the medium as well. That, you know, there's guys like Talking Elite and you guys that are, you know, using podcasts to grow and develop the community. I think as well. It's great. So yeah, happy Christmas and happy New Year. And
Yes, as well.
Same to you.
who knows? We can make this an annual review of the year.
Oh, hey,
Anytime, dude.
I'm in for that.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, this is the only year that we're talking about clusterfucks and shit grenades.
Yeah.
Next year's all rainbows and unicorns.
Fingers
Yeah.
are crossed, man. Fingers are crossed.